Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Growing Gills Book Club for Friday. Today, our topic is the weekly review. And I'm really excited about weekly review in general because I love weekly reviews, and also about this topic because we're actually moving finally from through the entire creative engine framework into the reflection phase. Reflection phase being one of the two phases that gets skipped the most often. And if you find that you are skipping this phase, you are not alone. I actually had a conversation with clients in the inside the Creative Focus workshop recently, where one was asking, "How do we? How do I get myself to want to do a weekly review?" And it was a really good question, and we'll get to that in a minute. So, to reel back, I am Jessica Abel from jessicaabel.com, and this is the Growing Gills Book Club. We're doing weekly review today. So, I see a lot of people showing up. That's awesome. Glad to see you here today. The weekly review is part of the reflection phase of the creative engine. And really, this is the key to how you learn to trust the system. This is how you learn to trust what you've set up for yourself to help yourself move through all of these different phases. Um, there's a lot of just kind of like slotting things into place and kind of thinking there are all these things that are there for you in your creative process. But then sometimes it feels like you you end up backsliding basically into old habits because you don't necessarily really trust that what you're doing now, the way that you're changing things, is going to actually work. And so the weekly review process is a way to calm your anxieties, chill out, look at what's happening, and notice changes. Like notice what you're achieving, notice how things are getting better, or worse for that matter. You know, if things are going the wrong way, then you can. That's a moment to think, oh, well, now what do I do? How do I change course? So one of the hardest things for creative people, I think, I find working with lots and lots of them in the Creative Focus Workshop is celebration. So celebrating something about what you have achieved, celebrating your work, and really saying, I'm proud of myself. I'm really proud. So that's my challenge to you right now. It is Friday, which is just luck that we happen to be doing weekly review on Friday, but today is my day for weekly review, and I look forward to it all week. I love the weekly review. So I really want you guys to post right now in the comments something you are celebrating about this week. Even something really small that you managed to pull off that was kind of surprising to you. Something you're proud of doing. It does not have to be in regard to your creative work. It can be anything at all. Getting enough sleep, whatever. Um, but I want everybody to focus on what did you do that's positive for yourself, positive for your work, and positive for moving forward. This is a teeny, teeny, tiny little weekly review that we're all going to do together right now. I want everybody to think about that and get it in the comments. And I'm seeing stuff showing up. Ren says, I launched my blog. That's huge. Congratulations. That's amazing. Susanna, it's your birthday. Oh my gosh, Susanna. Happy birthday. That's amazing. That's so cool. I'm struggling to figure out how to celebrate my husband's birthday next week. So if you have any tips, let me know in the ACC. Um, Syl says, I can face weekly review if I remember to be kind and compassionate about myself. Yes, exactly. That's the point. And part of the weekly review, as I've redesigned it inside the Creative Focus Workshop, is as a weekly reflection. And one of the first things you do is think about what went right this week. That is a way of resetting your expectations to say, to celebration and gratitude first. You can nitpick about stuff and complain about things too. I think that's important to be able to have a place to do that. But it's starting with that sense of like, wow, I really am moving forward. Let me look at what's happening in my life is super, super important. Um, Anne, hello from Toronto. I just finished watching Jessica on a burnout summit. Nice summary of what we were doing. Oh, good. I'm glad you saw that. I forgot that came out today. I recorded that like a month ago, so or longer actually. I think it was pre C19, believe it or not. So yeah, interesting. No, I guess we were already doing it. Yeah, but it was like 6 weeks ago that we did that. Celeste finished work on your website. That's awesome. Pamela, I have a deal for my new book. Wow, Pamela, you were totally talking about that in the ACC. Report back. We want to hear. Share your work. That's awesome. Amy, I did my first virtual write-in and started transcribing interviews. I've been putting this off for so long. That's awesome. If you are transcribing by hand, Amy, I just have two words for you, which is AI transcription. It is so good these days. I am telling you, it is worth it. So there's an app I use called Otter.ai, which does transcription. It's like $10 a month. You could do like a bunch in 1 month and unsubscribe. Even better is this new one I found called Descript, which not only will transcribe, but then you can actually edit the transcriptions, which will then edit the audio if you need to use the audio for something else. It's amazing. It's like magical. So crazy. Descript, totally cool. Okay. But hand transcribing is just a thing of the past. Like you can go through and correct things, but like AI is so good these days. It's really, really amazing. Lot started a 100 days project of no Instagram. Congratulations. Retaining your sanity, staying cool and staying forward looking. That's really great. Mindy accomplished a task that I've been praying for 15 years. So letting go of shame that I've been carrying for 15 years. Like mind blowing. Awesome. Congratulations. You are so strong and you moved through it, and that's what counts. Even if it's been sitting there for a long time, you did it and you are capable of doing it, and you can do it again. Susie, weekly review. Although I've been focusing on Gigi, I've also found myself working on my project, which you should be doing. It's not like you need to choose one or the other. I mean, obviously time notwithstanding. I learned some Photoshop skills and colors from my drawings. Fantastic. Excellent. Kelly painted every single day. Woo, Kelly, congratulations. Athena, I've shared my work on social media all week. I never do that. You do now. Lisa Schnell, a new draft of a manuscript. Fantastic. That's amazing. Let's see. Tao, I cleaned my basement studio / workshop. Totally clearing the decks for the next stage. That's amazing. Annette, first I set up project management systems for my project on Airtable, and I shared them with my collaborator, and I joined the CFW yesterday, and we are so happy to have you. In the comments for today, I put the link to the Creative Focus Workshop, the landing page with the free version, the short version of the Creative Engine masterclass, and I really encourage you guys, if this is working for you and you just want to go more and go deeper, check it out. Annette joined us yesterday. We had a couple other students join us over the last few days, and we're thrilled to have them. May is going to be Should Monster Month. Ooh, it's going to be a interesting one, but we're all going to work on them together and try to really tamp down those inner critic voices and help each other move forward. So if you're thinking about it, now's a great time to join. Deborah, 2 days into trying to establish a new habit. Excellent. Keep going. Michi, finished final tweaks on a few graphic recipes. All right. And I'm assuming these are for your book that's coming out. That's amazing too. Hope you're on track for that. Alexis, edited a story and entered in a contest. Fantastic. So brave. Allie, but doing work right away in the morning instead of getting distracted by scrolling news. That is an amazing new habit that is going to support your growth so much. News is fine. You want to keep up on stuff, but it needs to be corralled into certain times that serve us rather than the other way around. Julia, I actually made a lot of headway on both my current client commission, which I was really afraid of because of the number of unknowns, and a large studio renovation project, which I'd felt equally barfy about. First of all, thank you for using the word barfy in a sentence. Second of all, congratulations. Good for you. Proposals are really tough. And the, working with clients can be really, really tough. So it's very brave of you just to kind of keep plunging into that. Good for you. Lot says, I need to do this. Yes, you do, Lot. We would be thrilled to have you. Come on in. Water's fine. Teresa says, I created a rhythm where I read the chapters before I go to bed when I have time to myself. Excellent little window. And when you're done with this book and done with these chapters, what else are you going to put in that slot? Because you created a habit around reading before you go to bed and sort of resetting your thinking at that time. What do you want to use that habit slot for? Selena says, I managed to do the day job despite having a bad disability week. Good job. Good for you. I hope you really took care of yourself, as well, and managed to weave that in there. I know that can be really, really challenging. Working on putting together a new guest post from Jenny Spotila, who wrote our chronic illness guest post on the Creative Focus Workshop blog in the past, or the Creative Focus Workshop, or the Creative Focus blog on my site. New one about ideas about surviving isolation, since she's been somebody with chronic illness who's had to self-isolate off and on for 25 years. So look for that. That'll be next week. It'll come out in the email. Okay, let's see. Roswitha says, on 4 of 5 days, I accomplished my most important task that I planned the day before. Oh, huge! Awesome! Ruth developed a list of Paris travel memories and action items to provide art direction for my future self on an illustration and writing project from brimming to the surface this month. That is an incredible step forward with your collect phase of your creative engine. Good for you. Emmeline, building rest days into my workout plan for the week going forward. Important. I was working out from while aching from the day before. So yes, like figuring out what your body needs and how can you do best is, it's a long-term project to figure all that stuff out. That's amazing. Leslie, got some of the communication updates on the community gardens in my town related to COVID-19. We have a massive outbreak in our town, so this was urgent. Good job on that, making sure that you're keeping yourself safe. Christine also joined the CFW, one of my other joiners from this week. Welcome, Christine. So excited to have you there. It's going to be awesome. Marjorie is moving forward with planning and promoting a new partnership and to do programming through my business arts encounters, including my first solo curating exhibition and a virtual tea. You are busy, Marjorie. That sounds amazing. You're doing really cool stuff there. Mark started using Scrivener to organize my notes so I can finally write my book. That's a huge step forward. Christine got restarted on time tracking today and got to work first thing, but now I'm hungry. Yes, well, you do need to plan in actual self-care for your actual body into the day. Let's see. I love sharing these achievements. I really do. I think this is really, really great. Thank you for sharing all this stuff. Mario says, I started a marketing course, my project, and put it on my time tracking spreadsheet, and I actually completed the daily assignments. Yes! Good for you. Awesome. Okay. Corrine says, I'm paying more attention to my to-do list. I drew every day and grouped tasks more realistically. Very, very good. That is awesome. Okay. Congratulations, everybody. Whether or not you posted something right now, I think most people did, which I'm very proud of because I know it can be tough to get out there and draw attention to your achievements. But you did it, and you did it with each other, and that is very, very cool. So thank you for sharing those things. Makes me feel really happy to see you doing better. Makes me happy to be here with you and doing this on a Friday. So weekly review. So what is a weekly review? Well, a weekly review, which I like to call a weekly reflection, now is two things. One is taking a look at what's happening with your actual project and kind of tracking where you're at on things, recalibrating. Maybe you were overly ambitious this week, or and didn't get as far as you wanted to. Maybe that means next week needs to change a little bit. Are you still moving toward the project that you intended to, in the direction that you intended to, or have you gotten off track? Do you need to change the direction and the vision of your project? And so there's all this kind of project management piece of it, kind of moving things around, checking in where you're at. Then there's a second piece of it, which is not really in the book, and that's why I'm talking about it more today, which is this reflections piece. So this is something that I've developed since writing Growing Gills, but the idea of using your time during your weekly review to reflect on your week, what you learned, how things changed. So all of you who are saying, hey, I managed to actually do 4 out of 5 days, I did the thing I intended to do, the thing I set out to do. That is something to reflect on and think, like, what contributed to that success? What were the things that contributed to that success? Can I make sure I do that again this week? Can I put those things in place to make sure I did those things? Anything where you had success this week, there are factors that went into that success. If you were able to get work done despite having a flare-up of chronic illness, what were the things that contributed to that success? If you were able to start a new project that's been sitting there and kind of taunting you, but like you haven't made time for it, what were the factors that contributed to that success? If you can identify those things by reflecting on them, then you can integrate that learning in a way that you can then take it forward. That is the most important thing to think about here in terms of the reflections, is how do you learn from what happened? That's the reflection piece, and not just force yourself to go through reinventing the wheel over and over again. This is the thing that I see the most with creative people, is all of you here have succeeded at something creative in the past. There were various factors that went into that. We talked about that in the creative marathon or creative conditions unit or chapter a little bit. But whatever those conditions were, probably you either can't reproduce those, you don't want to reproduce those because it was so stressful or something like that, or you basically just forgot, like you forgot what those conditions were, and because you didn't reflect on it and you didn't capture that learning that you had from that project. So looking back on it, you can remember some things, but moving forward, when it's fresh, that's when you really can integrate and learn and change how you are behaving going forward. So that is the real thing that I want you to take away from this, is this idea of like, the value in the weekly reflection is getting to come out of the weeds of all this stuff, spend a little bit of time in your kind of strategic, like, master of the universe role, saying, all right, what did we do here? Did we hit goals? Did we not hit goals? Are we going the right direction? How can we use all this data that we've produced about what happened this week and make things different in the future? How do we feel about it? How do we want to feel about it? Those are the kinds of things you can do. And that's how, to get back to the question I posed at the beginning, where I talked to a creative focus student in a coaching meeting, a month ago or so, who was asking, how do I learn to love weekly reviews? Because she was resisting them and didn't want to do them. And I was like, this is how you do it. You get to have this moment with your work. You are allowed to have this moment with your work and with your life. It's saying, how do I feel about this? What do I want to do differently? I am in charge. And feeling like you're in charge in that kind of way is so crucial to being able to do something with that information. So that's why I enjoy my weekly reviews so much. I really enjoy thinking, getting sort of the excuse to sit down and think about my projects and what I want to do next and how things are going, and also really try to change things moving forward. So part of what I talk about in the chapter is this idea of development markers and success markers. So development markers, like I said, if you look back and you're trying to learn from, like, okay, well, I actually achieved my top 4 out of 5 days this week. The factors that went into you having that success are potentially development markers. Those are things that you want to slot into place in the future in order to help support your eventual success. So if what that meant is you set your top 3s the night before or 2 days before, you reminded yourself in the morning, you blocked out time first thing to do those things. How did you do it? What are those actions that you took to gain that success? Those are potentially development markers that you can track and say, how often did I do that? And if I did that mean I, on the other end, had success markers? Like things happened that I wanted to happen. Like I finished these 3 actions that I wanted to finish. That's success. But you can't finish without doing, you can't get the success without setting up the things on the developmental end. So these things are locked together, and mostly we only track success markers. That's why we forget and have to reinvent over and over the whole system, right? Because we're not looking at the inputs that create that output. So that is what you're doing with a weekly review or a weekly reflection. It's tying those things together. So what does a weekly review look like? Well, at a high level, and so ignoring all the list of many, many things that are in the book, at a high level, basically, you want to do some kind of an open loops pass, see what's pending, what's going to get really hot really soon, and you need to make sure you take care of it. What can you put away in icebox and not need to pay attention to that's been somehow otherwise very present for you, very pressing? So quick pass on your tabs and whatever, and get it into your system as either to do things or sometime maybe, get them out of view, whatever you want to do. Number 2 is filing from your inboxes. So your email inbox, your literal paper inbox, if you have Evernote or something, you clip things into Evernote, you'd want to review that. Wherever stuff's coming in, those are open loops, potentially, and you don't have to do this in a super comprehensive way every week, but you want to take a look at those things. You're going to want to track, in whatever way you call it or define it, these development markers and progress on your goals. So again, if you know what you want to achieve, I want to hit my top 3 5 days a week, and you hit 4 days a week, you look at what contributed to that success. You kind of track, did I do that every day? You set it up for the future, in the future, for the next week. You think you learn and you think like, what will I try in the future? Okay, well, I only made 2 days out of the week and I want to make 5 days out of the week. So what can I learn? What can I try next week as a possible development marker that might help me succeed? I only planned in the morning, I didn't plan at night, or I only planned at night, I didn't plan in the morning. What can you test and see if you can get something more out of it? Um, and that's basically it. Those are the things. Setting your top threes then for the next week. What is your top three? What are your top three goals for the next week? You can definitely do like the daily top threes, but as you get more into this, you're going to want to think like, what are the big picture top three things I want to work on in the next week? And you can set that for the next week. And that's something we do in the Autonomous Creative Collective every week. We have a post for everybody to post their top threes of the week and set a word of intention, like how do they want to show up to their week. All right, some questions over here. Emmeline says, development markers and success markers remind me of formative assessment and summative assessment from teaching theory. Probably. What I tried to do when I made up these words was this came out of, my understanding came out of lead and lag indicators. So lead indicators are things that are indicators of something going to happen in the future, and lag is like after the thing happened, you're paying attention to it. But lead and lag they're businessy terms and techie terms, and they didn't resonate as anything for people. So I translated those words into development and success to try to get the idea of beginning and end, right? Success after the fact, and development before the fact. So probably it's the same thing in teaching theory. I mean, basically anywhere you look, there are inputs that you have to do in order to get an output, right? And so some of those inputs are obvious. Like if you're writing a book, part of that input is like time typing words. That is an input. Or just words as an input. But one of the development markers might be time on those words. How many hours did I put in on it? How many sessions did I put in on it? How many times a day did I do it? Like those are the kinds of things where you can actually quantify those things in a granular way and say like, what's optimal for me? If I say I'm going to work 5 days a week on my book for 4 hours, but I'm actually doing an hour and a half on it because I kind of can't do 4 hours, is that counterproductive? Because I'm probably just wasting a lot of time otherwise and just feeling like really bad about it because I'm not getting to what I intended to do. So it's not just about doing more. Sometimes it's about recalibrating and doing less and saying like an hour and a half is what the time I have, like the brain power I have at top efficiency for writing my book, for example. And so what I need to do is have like 2 45-minute sessions, one after the other, every day for that. That's what I'm going to test. That's a development marker. If that produces success, then I know it worked. So it's a loop. And that answers your question still. Yes, it's a loop. That success markers are a result of development markers that work. Now, you may not actually be tracking those development markers, but success is a result of things you did. And if you can figure out which things you did mattered and which things you did didn't matter or were counterproductive, then you can start getting more scientific about what you're going to do going forward. And that is the reflection piece. That is the learning from your experiences piece. Corrine says, I've avoided accepting that I no longer have a paying job. I have art as a full-time, not a part-time focus, and it's a new challenge, and I have to change my thinking. Yes, and that is a big challenge. It's a very big challenge to have anything that is self-generated, a business, anything, be your full-time occupation, especially suddenly, and have to be fully responsible for all of the guardrails and all of the parameters around how you work and when you work. It is as important for somebody who has very limited time for their creative work as it is for somebody who has all the time to use a trusted system and planning for their time. Just because you have all day does not mean you're going to get anything more done if you just kind of say like, I'm going to do it when I get there. It's all about thinking about your own way of working, your habits, getting to the thing that you want to do first, making sure that that's high on your priority list, make sure you're tracking the time that you're spending. I don't mean tracking all day necessarily forever. The time tracking can be a limited period, but I mean, I said I was going to do an hour and a half, I did an hour and a half, that kind of tracking. Track your development markers, not necessarily all day, every day. Annette, same thing. These are, as Tao says, a great opportunity. and also a great challenge. I'm working with a number of people and have in the past people who have retired while I'm working with them or just before I'm working with them, and they are at sea initially because they're just like, they start filling their time with like lots of volunteer stuff, and then they're busy with that, and they're like, oh my god, I'm still not doing my creative work, or they're doing something else, and there's just all of this uncertainty on how to deal with this stuff. And I think I said this before in this forum. We are not trained how to do this. Like, we're not taught how to self-regulate and how to create structure around our time. And that is exactly why I run the Creative Focus Workshop. That's why when this new crisis showed up with coronavirus, I thought, I need to do this book club and I need to make access to the Creative Focus Workshop possible all the time, because people need this more than ever. If you're working at home and don't have any of the usual sort of boundaries on your time and your attention, between work and work and non-work, all those other kinds of things, you need this more than ever. And not only that, if you get better at this now, it's still going to serve you when you go back to your regular day job and you're doing something else, outside the house, because you're still going to have those skills in place to take care of yourself. I was talking to a client Wednesday, who was, she's got a baby and she's trying to do, build her business from home. Her husband's now suddenly home. She was already trying to build her business, but she's just feeling really weighed down by everything and by trying to manage all this complexity. And she's down to like about 4 hours a day that she can work on her business. And I pointed out that, like, I've known her for years. We've worked together for years. And I said, a few years ago, this would have flattened you. You are so much better at this now. And I know it feels bad, but if you celebrate your ability to handle these kinds of challenges, because you really do have so much more of a resilience, it's going to help you get back up off the floor and like keep things rolling. And it really did. Like, the next day she got back and said, this is totally helping just to see those things in myself. And so this is what I want to give to you as well. I want you to see that through working through even part of the Growing Gills work, through joining the Creative Focus Workshop, you're going to improve your resilience and your sustainability of your creative life and your ability to adapt to circumstances around you and be in charge, be the one who's in charge. And that is what weekly review and reflection is about. So let me just take a couple of questions if you have them, and we'll call it a day. So Corrine says, the other challenge is age. I'm well past retirement age. I mean, age is a challenge in the sense that physical challenges come up more often as we get older. I mean, I definitely know that and see it in myself, and I see it in people around me. So that is a challenge. But on the other hand, as long as you're like within the limits of your physical abilities or limitations, you still are in charge. You still get to decide what you do. There's no like expiration date of being creative. There's people who are like, I have a friend who's 80, I think, and he's heading off to like Amazon jungle or something, like something crazy to do, like this really cool nonfiction comics project with a writer. I forget where he's going. I have to figure it out. Anyway, he's just like, he's an incredible guy, keeps making new books. And it really depends on the individual, But if you're here doing this stuff, I'm pretty sure you're still completely capable of the things that you want to be doing. And a lot of this stuff about age is totally should monster stuff. It's other people telling you you're too old for this, time's up, like get out of the way for the young people to come in. There absolutely is no reason why that needs to be the case unless there are actual physical or mental limitations that are coming into play because of, disease. You can do this all the way to the very end. And so, I work with a lot of people who are in their 60s and early 70s, and they're just like, oh, I'm so worried about aging out and being too old for this. And it's like, I mean, what? You're just going to stop? Like, we just stop now? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like, in the same way that somebody who has like only like 15 minutes a day of free time needs to grab those 15 minutes with both hands and make them work, somebody who's a little bit older needs to take the time they have with both hands and say, it's mine. I get to decide. I can do what is important to me. I absolutely believe that. So, I mean, I hope that's helping those of you who feel that way, because I do know that this is a sort of real and ongoing issue for lots of people. Okay, Celeste says, your timing was perfect for me with C19. I'm time rich right now, but circumstances have changed so much that it's been tricky. The website I finished today, I started working on in January. That's actually a pretty quick turnaround for a website, so good work on that. Um, yes, exactly. I know that some people, not everybody, not me certainly, have a lot more time on their hands suddenly, or a lot fewer boundaries, and that is me, where my kids are here and I'm teaching all in the same place, and it is stressful and an anxiety producing time, and this is exactly why you need these kinds of tools to keep control of your decisions and be the one who's in charge. um, Christine says, funny thing is, I was 40 when my first book was published, and I thought then that I was already too old. It's all relative. Yeah, I mean, I people who are 35 and they're like, I'm too old. I'm like, are you kidding me? Just get over yourself. Like, you're fine. Keep moving. Like, as long as you are physically and mentally capable of doing this work, you should be doing this work. Um, Zoe says, when you talk about folks you're working with, are those members of your Creative Focus workshop or people you're coaching privately? Um, I have mentioned a couple different people today. One of them is somebody who is in the Creative Focus workshop who was in a group coaching call. We do those once a month. And the other person I was talking about is in a small group coaching program called the Momentum System, which is something I offer once or twice a year as a cohort for a 3-month group coaching um, uh, session. So that's not open right now, but the Creative Focus Workshop is open right now. If you're interested in it, if you're interested in doing more of this and having this be ongoing, because of course this group is limited duration. When we're finished with the book club a week or so afterwards, I'm going to archive the group. But if you want to keep going with this and with these amazing people, the link I put into the description of this post is to the Creative Engine Masterclass, which is also the gateway into being able to join the Creative Focus Workshop. So if you're looking for it, that's where you'll find it. All right, looks like we're all supporting each other through feeling old. We all feel old sometimes, believe me. It happens to be frequently and completely natural and okay. All right, guys, so this was really fun. Monday we will be back with chapter 15, and I forget what chapter 15 is. I think we're talking about Vision Quest at that point, which is about your 5-year vision looking forward. So looking forward to that, and I will see you next time. Have a great weekend, get some rest, and yeah, keep moving.